Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thanks for tuning in to the Dirt Rider YouTube channel. My name's Evan, and today I'm out here in Southern California testing the 2021 Kawasaki KLX230R. This is a off-road only model from Kawasaki that they've had for quite a while. And the reason we're testing the 21 and not the 22, because it is available currently, is that they're just hard to get right now. Kawasaki only had the 21 available, but there's no real big differences between the 2021 model and the 2022 model, other than the graphics are slightly different, and the 2021 model has a 0.2 inch seat height. It's taller by 0.2 inches. So still basically the same bike. So we're gonna throw a leg over it, send it on some single track, some open roads, fire road type of stuff, hop around some rocks, and see how it does. So stay tuned. All right, got the helmet on. Let's jump through a couple specs and then we'll be moving. Start off, we have a air-cooled single-cylinder engine. Displacement is 233 cc's. Fed by direct fuel injection by a 32 millimeter key in throttle body right here. It's a single overhead cam engine, a 2-valve. Up front, the fork, it's a 37 millimeter telescopic fork with 9.8 inches of travel. In the rear, we have a Unitrack shock and linkage with adjustable spring preload, and that offers 9.9 inches of suspension travel. At the controls in the rear, we have a 220 millimeter disc with a single piston caliper. This is pretty nice because back in the day, for a long time, this type of motorcycle would always have a drum brake in the rear, so it's nice that you got a little more premium controls in the back. Up front, it's going to be a 240 millimeter disc with a dual piston caliper. All right, the seat height is 36.4 inches on the 2021 model. On the 2022 model, it's 36.2 inches, just slightly smaller. The gas tank is a 1.7 gallon gas tank. It comes in one color, this lime green, and the price tag is $4,399 for this one you see right here, the 2021 model. And the 2022 model is $4,599. So slight price bump right there for the 2022 model, but yeah, all around it's a pretty affordable motorcycle. So start her up. We got this little on-off right here. There's no key. That primes the battery. Electric start. It doesn't even have a Kickstarter, so super easy. Fuel injected. So one of the biggest things I feel like these kinds of bikes that happen to people, the kind of person that's going to buy this bike is probably someone who isn't going to ride every month, and they want to be able to store their bike away and for a month or two and go and pull the cover off it, fire it up, it's ready to go. And that was one of the big things with the bikes when they were carbureted, is it always was, oh, let's go riding, but I'm going to have to clean the carb. This thing, just keep a little trickle charger on the battery and you'll be riding in no time. So, all right, let's get going. All right, so right off the bat, this thing has pretty good low-end grunt. It's not super low-end. There's almost a slight delay on the real low-end bottom end. Like if you're in second gear, for instance, almost at a dead stop, there's a little bit of kind of nothing on bottom. Whoa, almost missed the shift there. But once you get just maybe that 2,000 RPM range, that's when it comes alive. But simultaneously, it's not a high revving bike. It kind of wants to be quick shifted and just ridden in that nice little meat of the power, just that mid-range power. As for the suspension, it's nice. It's a little stiffer than I thought would be on a bike like this. And this little tight stuff, I mean, I weigh about 120 pounds without gear on. So I am a light rider, almost the size of most kids or women. But it's a little hard to get the front, to get movement out of the front, unless you're kind of dive bombing a hill or coming fast into a section. So let's go find some little bit slower stuff, kind of get out of this staging area and really see what this thing's willing to do. So right off the bat, so that was first gear. It can do this little trialsy stuff real nice. The suspension, it really likes when you start moving fast in those bumps. I see right there, it doesn't bottom out. It's really plush, almost not motocross style suspension, but for someone who wants to maybe do a little bit more attacking on this bike, it really lends itself to you, which is nice because it's so easy to ride in the sense that it's small, it doesn't have a crazy amount of power. So, but then if you want to, you know, give it the beans or really show your skill set on it, it has no problem getting after it. So for someone who maybe their wife is gonna ride it for half the day and then they're gonna go out on a little more technical ride, faster riding, you know, it's a do all kind of bike. You start getting into this fast stuff, it really enjoys it. It never once feels like you're pushing it too hard and it can't handle some of these bumps. See, I kind of overshot that corner, and it has good brakes, so you get stopped quickly and you can really ride aggressively. Here we go. You want to, whoo. See, this thing is a really fun trail bike because it's lightweight, it's really easy to ride, it's affordable, and it's just an extremely confidence-inspiring machine where you have good suspension. Oh, got the foot peg there. You have good suspension, a motor that has just enough character to have fun but also won't scare you, and could, you know, be passed around the campsite from all different skill levels. And the rear is adjustable, I should add, and I mentioned earlier, and that is something I'll probably play with next time I come out, is maybe just adjusting the sag or the preload to make it a little more friendly for a small lightweight rider like myself, because it feels like it feels like it has a little bit of a natural stink bug stance out of the box. One thing I did notice quickly that I'm not a big fan of is the shifting, or the shifter. It has one of those return shifters or transmissions where it just doesn't feel very refined. The shifts feel a little vague, and a lot of times you don't know if you really got that shift done, well, until you either roll on the throttle or have to kind of retrace your steps and go, oh wait, go all the way back down to 1, and okay, 2 up, I was in 3rd gear. But I have only been on the bike for, you know, half the day, so it could just be something I'm still getting used to. But other than the shifting just feeling a little vague, once you are in the right gear, the gearing is pretty spot on. If you watched, last year I did a review on here's a little jump. I did a little review on the Kawasaki KLX230R, and one of the things that I struggled with on that bike was the big difference between 1st gear and 2nd gear. It was just a big jump, and a lot of times in this tighter stuff, 1st gear was too short and 2nd gear was too long. But Kawasaki got the gearing on this bike pretty spot on, because I'm in 2nd right now, and you could rev the bike out a bit, but you could also come to basically a dead stop, and it has no problem you know, rolling on and giving you some power. And then again, just cruising on these open roads and down, if you're kind of going to be, you know, staying closer to the truck and maybe you're learning to ride, this bike does that really well also. Maybe that's really almost maybe more of its intent, but you get a more experienced rider on it, you know, like do a second gear wheelie. It's got good brakes, you can stop quickly, hop around on rocks. The clutch engagement is nice. It doesn't have a super direct feel, but it's really light on the finger, and so it makes just riding around in single track and tight stuff all day, it makes it you know, not very fatiguing. With some of these other bikes, they don't think about the tighter section stuff that might cause something like that. So that was just a little second gear hop over the rock, and with good clutch control, you can really make this bike a fun sort of technical riding motorcycle. The something I will say I noticed pretty quickly as well is it's not a particularly narrow bike. So when you're squeezing with the legs, it feels a bit wide in that midsection compared to some of the other air-cooled machines that this would be competing against. With that said though, it does have its flaws, but it also has its strong points, and the strong point is the suspension. This suspension really, especially for someone a little bit heavier, I think they'll find it to be, you know, just stiff enough, but plush enough at the same time where it can wear all the hats on the trail. All right, we found a little more, some tighter stuff, a little rock. See the fork in these sections where you gotta kind of blip it into a rock, it handles it really nicely. It's very plush, it doesn't deflect, it just has just enough hold up to allow the aggressive riding, but also it's plush enough to create comfort in it. Right here, when I have downhill, I'm going downhill, I am on both brakes, but just with extra weight on the front, it makes the rear shock being a little bit oversprung for the fork even more noticeable. Whew. And at times maybe it seems like because the shock is stiffer, that when under load or on the gas, it doesn't make, it makes the rear wheel want to spin, and sometimes even wheelie, it doesn't kind of load the shock and create a, you know, extra pressure on the tire. It just kind of makes it want to feel a little loose in the rear. The gearing is nice. I'm in second gear, and just with some clutch control, you can pick your way through even the tightest sections and just stay in second gear. I'm still in second gear. You can wind it out and then get on the brakes. It does prove to be a very versatile transmission or gearing for this kind of riding. You could, in most sections, just leave it in second gear, as I have done most of the day. It does get a little vibraty, a little buzzy when you get into the higher RPMs. You're winding it out a little bit. It does, you know, give a little bit of vibration in the throttle, or excuse me, in the foot pegs and the handlebars. Nothing, you know, unbearable, but just something to notice. Another thing I mentioned earlier too was that it does feel a bit wide compared to some of its competitors in the same class, and just mostly right here in where you would grip with your legs or your knees. Feels wider than some of his competitors, but something that I like that's wide is the handlebar. This is a really nice handlebar as far as the bend and the width for this machine. Again, talking about other bikes in this class, is they tend to have a smaller sort of pulled in bend, maybe to suit a more beginner or shorter, smaller rider in stature. But being, you know, an off-road guy and a moto guy, it was something I instantly could appreciate, was a nice wide handlebar. Just keep your elbows up and just gives you good control and leverage. I guess now could be a good time to talk about ground clearance. Just make sure I clear all these rocks without bashing up the bottom. And you know, the number off the top of my head I can't quite remember, but I believe it's somewhere around 11 to 12 inches of ground clearance, which is pretty good. You see, we've been kind of playing around on some of these rocks, and it has yet to be a problem. I have not hit the frame or dragged the bottom on anything so far. Another thing I thought I would add is that the Kawasaki KLX230R comes with full-size dirt bike wheels, off-road wheels. That's a 21-inch in the front and a 18-inch in the back. And so not only does that allow you to have, you know, the ground clearance, as well as the ability to roll over locks and bumps and rocks, but it also gives you a big range of tire choices. So you can, you know, have everything from, whoa, I was in second gear right there, which is something, I was in second gear right there, which is something I will note that I have a couple times stalled it in some of those sections where, you know, you're kind of hopping on a rock, or, you know, needing to use a little bit of grunt when it's under load and you're going slow. And if you're not really careful with the clutch and the throttle, it could just be too much for this engine and it'll stall out. But just something to keep in mind. But as I was saying, with the 21-inch front wheel and 18-inch rear wheel, is it allows you to do those kinds of things and jumping off rocks and be aggressive in that sense, but also, you know, it gives you the option of premium rubber depending on what you might be riding, whether that's more of a loamy dirt, or you're on some hard pack stuff, or, you know, just a sand tire, for instance, if you wanted to. It'll give you a big range from all the tire manufacturers: Dunlop, Michelin, Bridgestone, Pirelli. So that's something that's nice about this bike, and that's kind of the growing theme with this motorcycle and just this kind of genre of motorcycles, is that it's like a hybrid bike between a big boy or a big full-size bike and a competitive motorcycle, to also having some beginner-friendly features, you know, something to kind of satisfy everyone. And it's so that makes it really easy to ride, makes it very confidence inspiring and approachable. But it also, see, and the suspension is just so nice right there, it doesn't bottom out. It yeah, just a really easy bike to ride that all skill levels can appreciate and have fun on, and it's at a very affordable price range, or price point. The brakes are really good and direct. The rear brake's nice and touchy, and it's just like the rear brakes are so important in all motorcycle riding, but especially off-road, where, you know, you need to, you know, manipulate the bike, or, for instance, right there, slide into a corner, kind of pivot. Here we go, some rocky sections, and And some of this kind of rockier, slower stuff with all the little bumps is where the suspension maybe, for me, is a little, just slightly, oh so very slightly too stiff. But I personally would have it be a little more stiff and compromise there than be too soft and, you know, compromise in some of the faster sections. So, and that's another thing I think about too, is this bike being, you know, having a pretty, not a tall seat, but what feels to be like a full-size dirt bike seat height, or nearly, and just a, you know, pretty full-size motorcycle structure, is with that stiffer suspension setting, it'd be really perfect for, you know, maybe a heavier or just bigger rider. It's got good power. I mean, this is a 230 cc or 233 cc engine, and I've been on some of the other air-cooled bikes in this class that are closer to that 250 range, and I'll be honest, I thought this thing might be a little underpowered in that sense, but it feels really good. And see right there, just first gear lift the front end. The clutch is nice, but it has sort of that old school 450 or four stroke feel. It's just kind of raw, kind of, you know, not that it's you know, not well refined, but it just sort of that old school four stroke feel. And it's nice. It's grunty. It's pretty lively, especially in the mid range. It signs off a little early, but you know, with just being, you know, good with the shifter and knowing where to be in the power band, I have not once felt that the bike needs more power, or that I could, you know, ride better or get over something with more power. So, and at the same time, it doesn't have any type of burst of power. It's very linear, very trackable, but also has just enough grunt to excite, you know, the more experienced riders. Whoa! And it feels real nimble on the trail. The chassis does it's not that it's stiff, but it doesn't have a lot of flex, and it doesn't feel, you know, like it'll fold under pressure, or like I said, with that softer or stiffer suspension setting, it doesn't feel like the chassis is either too soft or too stiff. It feels very aggressive in that it can handle those harsh bumps, but it doesn't feel, you know, just so rigid and uncompromising that you could feel everything on the trail. A little downhill single track. The bike feels real good through here. Again, the rear end just feels a little too stiff, a little kind of wants to pitch me over, but as I said earlier, we're going to spend some more time on this bike. We're going to play with the preload adjustment on the shock and hopefully find a little bit of a better setting there, or just setup for a guy as light as me. Again, I weigh about 120 pounds without gear on. So, but yeah, other than that, that's gonna wrap up this first ride review on the 2021 Kawasaki KLX230R. If there will also be a link in the description for a full the written review. It'll be more in depth. We'll spend more time on this bike and kind of put together all the pieces of the good and the things that could be improved upon. So if you enjoyed this video, would you go ahead and hit that like button? I'd appreciate that. If you're not already subscribed, maybe consider doing that. and let me know what you think in the comments below. Other than that, we'll see you guys next time, and thanks for tuning in.